evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 501 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for Sunday, July 15th, 2018. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, PC shipments are on the rise, Nintendo is patching its exploits, and the internet is obsessed with censorship. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Google+, any of the podcatchers, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, the myriad of other ones like Stitcher and such, or on any of our live stream platforms, of which there are a number: livestream.com, Mixer, Periscope, Twitch, YouTube Live, or Facebook Live, or of course on our apps, plughitzlive.com/apps. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can join us. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us, and there you can chat with us in the studio as we do the show live. Tonight, I am looking at Mixer, I am looking at Twitch, and YouTube are the best ways to chat with us. So if you have any input on the topics as we go along, please let us know, and we will try and incorporate them into the show. But if you're not able to join us live, that is okay. You can also go to plughitzlive.com/subscribe, and there you will see all of our shows, including F5 Live, the Pilch Point with Avram Pilch, which will be on in just a little bit. We'll be talking about his personal experiences buying a laptop and the fascinating ups and downs of that journey. Our First Look series, our special events, and a myriad of others are all there at plughitzlive.com/subscribe. And I think that's it. Avram, how have you been?
All right. a little bit of stress over a situation that should not be stressful for anyone, let alone me. But we'll get into that in my segment in terms of buying a laptop and having to return it at least 3 times. So, but other than that, I guess everything is okay.
Well, that's good.
I was in Utah this week for 3 days. So I got to visit our company office there, which is the first time that I've gotten to go. It's very pretty. Was in Ogden. Lots of nice mountains, pretty space. Love to go again. So it was otherwise okay.
Okay, well that's good. I'm glad you finally got to see the corporate offices, and you got to see some testing facility too, right?
Yes, that's what's in our office. So we have in our parent company, Perch, we have a couple of different offices. I work in the New York one, as do most of the staff from Tom's Hardware and Tom's Guide and Laptop. But in Utah, the company has a giant lab space along with an office. So a couple of our writers who don't live in New York came out to Utah to meet with me and our managing editor, Matt Safford, and the head of Perch Labs, Matt Murray, and talk about how they do testing of components like CPUs and GPUs, and so we could all be kind of cross-trained in how to do it, and talk about some of the ideas that came out of that we could use for either better testing or special features. So we had an interesting time, and a lot of food for thought, so to speak.
Sure. Well, that's good. Getting to interact with some of your remote workers must have been nice.
Yeah, it is. Always cool to hang out with Paul Alcorn, who is our CPUs editor and lives in Kansas. He is a absolutely brilliant guy and a fantastic journalist. And Chris Angelini, who is our graphics expert and used to be editor-in-chief, have the same job that I do, but is now now kind of works for us on a freelance editorial basis.
Okay.
He came and talked to us about GPUs, so it was very cool. We had a good time. Great. We went axe.
Uh-oh. It must be that time where
Throwing.
Oh, he's back. You
Yeah.
did your
Anyway.
weekly pause. Did you say you went
Yes, there you go.
Did you say you went axe throwing?
Yes, that's what I said. We went axe throwing. I think they have it not only in Utah but other places, but they had a place called like Social Axe or something, and it's like bowling or darts or whatever. You go and like you rent for an hour and they give you like 2 lanes to like throw axes at a board, and they have games for you to play, like you split into 2 teams, and I've never done it before, but it's pretty fun. Just sort of make sure you don't throw it at the wrong thing.
Yeah, like that morning show last year. Maybe
there was a morning show where somebody threw an axe at someone.
Yeah, he threw it at the thing and hit like what was it? Like a military drummer or something that was behind it. Like totally missed the mark, like the whole board.
Yeah.
But hit him sideways, so everything was fine. But yeah, what a fascinating extracurricular activity that is.
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay.
That was fun. So they have funny thing there. I guess they probably have it everywhere, but right near our hotel, they had like 3 or 4 activities that you would expect to do outside, inside. So they had an indoor skydiving, indoor surfing, and indoor rock climbing place. And then they had axe throwing, which I guess you could do indoors or outdoors, but this was indoors.
Okay. We've got an indoor skydiving place in Orlando. I think that's the closest that we've got here. They just implemented some VR technology. I haven't seen it yet. That's not what we're going to talk about, though. That's cool that there were like things around to do. I went to see a client one time in Houston, and there was nothing around us. So
yeah, Houston. I don't know if it's changed, man, but I went to Houston on a business trip like 1999 or so. It was the most boring place I've ever been in my entire life.
Yes.
It was. I'm sorry, Houstonians, if you're on. Maybe it's gotten better. Maybe I didn't see the good parts. We were staying in this mall, like literally our hotel was part of the shopping mall, and every single thing, we turned on the hotel travel channel, which was supposed to tell you what to do in town. Every attraction was a store in the mall.
Oh no.
It was like they put on like, Houstonians are proud of our rich cultural diversity. For example, in the food court, we have both a Taco Bell and a Panda Express.
Oh no. Yeah. That's about what I seem to remember, was give or take that. I didn't stay in a mall. I thought that our weird university mall in Tampa was the only strange mall to do that. I guess not. Anyway, yeah, that was my experience too. Anyway, it's good that there were things to do, so that at the end of the day it wasn't just twiddle your thumbs.
It was much nicer than that. I actually have to give some props. I wasn't expecting Ogden, which is where we went, to be such a nice place. It was I'd heard it was boring, but actually it's like a happening little town. Like they have all these pubs around, and live music, and obviously beautiful landscape. What I really want to do next time is go hiking. And it was 99 degrees there, but it really wasn't very hot. I think it's because it wasn't humid at all.
Yeah.
So
I remember being in Vegas one time at 114 degrees and thinking, this feels cooler than 82 in Tampa. It's crazy. So, yeah, almost certainly that. All right. So how about we get down to some news for the week?
Cool.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking to pre-order one of the new Surface Gos, or you want to get an Xbox One with a free gift card, $30 card if you buy an Xbox One X right now. If you get a One S, you can get an extra free game of your choice, obviously from a limited selection. And obviously they've got more than just that. There's the Harman Kardon Invoke, the Cortana-powered smart speaker. There's VR and augmented reality headsets. The Galaxy S9 and 9 Plus from Samsung. All of that and more available by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. It's fascinating to watch them expand their lineup. Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about. Let us talk about PCs. Obviously, over the last couple of years, we know that PC shipments have been down. And by that, I mean almost 6 years. Every quarter after quarter, sales are down. And there's a number of reasons for it. Probably the primary reason is that consumers, not content producers, obviously, Avram's got a couple of computers himself.
We'll get to this in my segment a little bit, but I have not, up until this year, I had not refreshed my computer for 4 years. So
right.
So I know where everyone is coming from.
Yeah.
But you continue.
But you do have a computer, even if you hadn't refreshed it. You live on a computer because you create content. Obviously, in the studio here, what was the count I did 2 weeks ago? I think there's 5 of them that run the studio here. But consumers have kind of gravitated away from the PC and into phones and tablets as their primary consumption devices. And with that, PC sales have been down. Now, that's across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're talking Windows or Mac. Traditional computer sales are down. Until this quarter, for the first time in almost 6 years, PC shipments increased, which there's a couple of reasons why. The first is there's a certain point where the number being sold gets so low that you could accidentally bump it up. So after 23 quarters of sales declines, at some point you're going to have a situation where just accidentally you could increase. But we're actually seeing a global trend in enterprises updating their whole fleet. And that is because a number of old Windows versions have come to the end of their lives for support. And so obviously at that point, the enterprise, the big corporations that are usually reluctant to change their technology because it's a big expense, finally have to do it because you don't get all of the security stuff anymore, and all your machines are no longer what they used to be. So
and it also sort of begs but answers an obvious question, which is why couldn't they just take their old computers and spend a little bit of money for the Windows 10 upgrade? And I think the answer is they don't want to be bothered.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They don't want to be bothered. There could be a driver issue, whatever. It's expense to upgrade stuff. So what for you and me is a 40-minute process. When you're a big company, you'd rather just buy a new computer.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you take into consideration that they may not, they're probably not all the same model across the enterprise. So the process could be ridiculous. Updating this one might have this driver issue, and this one might have, the video card. It's an unknown. It for most IT departments, it's not worth fighting.
And let's give some props to the employees. At least now you're getting a slightly better computer.
Indeed.
Probably getting a better computer. Who knows? It couldn't. 4 or 5 years past. Now I got a theory here, and okay. I don't know that there's any evidence that the evidence is with me, but I think the reason PC sales have declined is not so much because people are on their phone. Yes, people are on their phone, people are on their tablet for watching movies or playing casual games. Great. I think I think most families, most households, at least in the US, I know there are countries where they can't, where that are more sort of developing nations, they don't have the infrastructure for home internet and things like that, where
Sure.
it's like, no, you don't necessarily have a laptop or a desktop.
Sure.
But I think that the reason PC sales have been declining is because the difference between, and I hear this
Yeah.
every time from Intel, every single time Intel comes out with a new CPU, they always talk about how this CPU that they just came out with compares to a 4 or 5 year old CPU.
Uh-huh.
They rarely talk, they don't talk nearly as much about how it compares to last year's CPU. So like, every time we have a launch, like we did with like the KB Lake R last year,
Sure.
right? 8th gen core, when they give us journalists our, little PowerPoint presentation, they're always talking about like, here's some benchmarks versus a 4 or 5 year old PC, and here's one with KB Lake R. They're not like, oh, here's one versus last year's.
Right.
So what Intel is acutely aware of, and I think we're all acutely aware of, is PCs are not just competing with phones, they're competing with your existing PC.
Yeah.
People have old computers that are still perfectly good. And so you got to convince people that, hey, your current PC that you've had for 4 or 5 years, you really would benefit from replacing it. Now, unfortunately, these things aren't breaking as much as they might want them to. And the software has not got, unless you game, PC game, the software has not gotten that much more demanding.
Yeah.
So in the end, you're faced with a question of, and I've done articles about this for laptop. I should probably do one now that I'm for Tom's Hardware, which is like, when do you know it's time to replace your laptop or your desktop? And it's time is either something either there's something you want to do that you can't, that is a new capability, like people who want a touchscreen or they want a 2-in-1 and they only have a regular laptop, or they have a desktop and they finally want to make the jump to a laptop. It changes their use case. Okay, so like that's, or you weren't playing PC games, now you want a gaming machine. Those are all reasons why you say, oh, okay, I need a new PC. It does something that my current one doesn't. Or your current PC is too slow for your needs. It's getting a little slow. The battery life isn't what it was, or what you need, or what you now need it to be. So, unfortunately, a lot of people who are just like doing regular stuff like email, surfing the web, even writing documents, are doing perfectly fine with 4 and 5 year old and older machines. And so that's what they're competing against, is like, make me need a new machine. Now here's something that hasn't really been talked about a lot, you didn't mention. This happened to me, and I bet you it's happened to a lot of other people, although they may not know why. Your computer has slowed down in the last few months. Do you know why it slowed down in the last few months?
Because of Spectre.
Right. The Spectre and Meltdown mitigations patches that people install, maybe without even looking or thinking about it. You clicked OK because you're supposed to install them. They have a negative effect on older processors. And my laptop in particular, which has I think a 4th generation core processor in it, suddenly is at the point where it's pretty okay when I'm using it by itself, but when I'm using it like I am now, docked to 2 monitors through a USB docking station, I get lag. I get some amount of lag. Switching tabs in the browser, and there's a second of delay, or things like that I didn't used to experience. Or I'm typing in Google Docs and it takes like 2 seconds before the words come out sometimes. Ooh. And that's a kind of annoying thing that you're like, it doesn't happen all the time. It's a type of annoying thing that makes me say like, okay, it's been a few years now. Now is the time. my computer's not broken. It's it's still chugging along, but it's got a little slower. The battery has declined. The other day, my battery died in like 5 hours of continuous use. That's not good for me.
Right.
So, although I had it on pretty high brightness, so who knows? But anyway, point being, like that's the kind of thing that makes you say, okay, time to change. But a lot of people hadn't had a great reason to change.
Yeah.
Now, Spectre and Meltdown might actually be giving them a reason to change.
That's true. I know that here in the studio, granted, the studio machine doesn't run on an Intel processor, but so to cover both of your points, the processor that is in our broadcast computer, Tom's Hardware reviewed in October of 2011. So that I went and I couldn't find a release date, but I did find your review on the processor. So that was good enough. October of 2011 was when Tom's Hardware released the review of this processor, and it's done us well all that time until AMD discovered that Spectre also affects them and put out a patch, and so we see this processor spike more than we used to. Like, while I was looking up the model of the processor, it went to 95%.
Yeah. So my wife's computer is even older. My wife has a desktop that we built her in like 2011 or 2010. It's like first gen Core, and listen, I now understand, like years ago, I'll just leave it at this. Years ago, I used to say, oh man, everybody, what is with people? Just upgrade your computer every couple of years. Come on, this is important. It's how much could it be? And then, things happen in your life, my life anyway. You have a child, you move to a house, you have a mortgage, stuff happens in your house. Like, you never know when an appliance is going to go and you need to buy a new one, or like something's going to happen, and it's not so appealing anymore to spend $1,000-$1,500 every couple of years just to have just to make things a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, I just added the Surface Book to my lineup recently, but recently, it might have been a year ago. I think it was after Collision last year, so it's not quite a year. But before this, I was still using my Surface Pro, which is a second gen Intel Core. I think it's a 2200 or something, 2400. So yeah, I understand. And I didn't go out of my way to pick up this computer, although obviously now the studio computer is about to be replaced because the new one that Michelle bought makes me jealous. Or I guess the new one that Michelle built makes me jealous because we did, when we did the Drew project, we used her computer, and it was like, and at Collision, we used her computer, and we had way more cameras and stuff, and I think we spiked it to 4%.
Yeah. I mean,
so sometimes there's a little bit of jealousy that makes you want to do something, or you realize, you know what, it really is time for a specialty computer. But you're right. For a lot of people, until these internal non-replaceable batteries start to go, there's not a whole lot of reason for a consumer to upgrade a computer because they're doing less on it. And the differences between 3 years ago and today aren't that big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously there is at least some trend upward right now. I do think some of it has to do with, the statistical reality that it was going to happen at some point, and the fact that we're seeing some enterprises upgrade. But I don't think it has anything to do with consumers. Although, at least one consumer, Avram, did do an update, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Monster Products. The headphones on my head right now, the Monster Elements in the slate black, which is my new favorite. I really love them. Available in on-ear, over-ear, in-ear. Plus, maybe these aren't your style. Maybe you're looking for something more sport-related, the iSports. Available in corded and Bluetooth. You're looking for true wireless, or maybe a speaker, the little hot shot, the S100, the big monster blaster, and of course, all of the cables to connect all of those products and your computers and more, all available by going to pilchpoint.live/monster. So, Avram kind of publicly purchased a computer recently. And by that I mean you wrote about it, the fact that it was finally time for you to buy one. And it has not quite gone the way you expected.
No. So I think I talked about it in this program as well.
I think we've talked about it a little bit, yeah.
I think we've talked about it in this program. So if you were listening to the previous segment, I was talking about when it's time to update when you know it's time to update your computer. And I've been feeling for a while like it's time to get a new laptop, because my old laptop, ThinkPad T440S, which still works great and I've been using had now for 4 years, is good, but it has slowed down a little bit, especially since the Spectre and Meltdown patches. It works fine. It works pretty well when it's not docked, but when I have it docked through a USB docking station to dual monitors, like I like to do, like I'm doing right now as I'm talking to you, sometimes I get some lag. And so, 4 years, I'm in this professionally. I kind of felt like, okay, this is the time, especially since I'd be going from 2 to 4 cores, because if you get something that is 8th gen core now, you're getting 4 physical cores, which is a big performance improvement even over the year before, let alone my 4-year-old laptop, which is on 4th generation core. So with all the stuff that I had studied and all the stuff that I reviewed, my favorite laptop and one that I wanted for myself was the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. The reason why I love this laptop is because it should have, a fantastic, best-in-class keyboard with really good tactile responsiveness, a really premium feeling, soft touch design, a nice bright screen, and it's a very light, 2.5 pounds, much lighter than my over 4 pound laptop now, and it lasts a long time on a charge, well over 10 hours, no matter what type you have, probably. Anyway, so this is an expensive laptop, but in May I saw it on sale, and I ordered one for around $1,400, which had the 16 gigs of RAM, a 512 gig SSD, and perhaps I shouldn't have gotten this, but I thought, hey, this will be the best for battery life, a 1080p screen. Well, when you order a laptop from Lenovo, if you order through their website, it takes a long time. Figure you're going to wait 2 to 4 weeks to get it, and that you may, as I did, get emails saying your shipment was delayed even within that. So I ordered it, and I had high hopes I might get it in time for my trip to Taiwan, but it came while I was away. I come back, excited to open this up and try it, and I noticed three major problems with it. One, parts of the keyboard are mushy and sticky, like the space bar, that little used key. The screen is, so dim, so dim. And then the track point, the little pointing stick, which to me, for most people, they don't want it. I get it. It's not for everyone. But for me, it's an important feature. I really like that. I really like being able to, as a touch typist, I like being able to move the pointer around without lifting my fingers off of the home row of the keyboard. It means less moving my shoulder, and it means that I can work faster, and I just like it a lot better than using a touchpad. Which if you want a pointing stick, you don't have a lot of choices in 2018. There are ThinkPads, there's Dell Latitudes, and there are a couple maybe still HP EliteBooks that have it, but the Dell and HP ones, and I think there are also maybe a Toshiba that have it, theirs aren't very good. Anyway, point being that the track point was actually drifting a lot. So like you try to move it and the pointer would just suddenly go. You move the pointer up to the upper left of the screen and then you let go and it go right down to the bottom or something like that, right? I've had that problem a little bit from time to time on my own computer, so it happens, but it was happening like constantly. So I had that thing for like 2 or 3 days, for like a few days, and it was real bad. And I took it to the office, and we tested the screen. And although the screen is supposed to be 300 nits, it was really 269 nits. So I returned it. You know, I sent it back, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna, maybe my bad for getting the 1080p screen. Maybe I should get. There are 4 screen options with the ThinkPad Carbon. There's the 1080p non-touch screen, the 1080p touch screen, a 2K non-touch screen, and a 2K non-touch HDR screen. The HDR screen is incredibly beautiful, but it also uses a lot more battery, and it's glossy, which means that you really got to pump the brightness up if you're anywhere with, or else you're going to see a reflection. So perhaps I should have gotten the HDR screen because it just looks so good. But the first time I got the 1080p screen, the second time I got the regular 2K screen. So again, I ordered it. I ordered a new one. I waited over 3 weeks. It came finally last week. I take it out. I start using it. The keyboard is mush. It's terrible. It's not. Now, mind you, if someone did not know what the original keyboard is supposed to be like, you might think this is okay, because even a bad ThinkPad keyboard is probably better than most keyboards.
Fair enough.
But I still have the review unit that the company sent me, and I put them side by side, and I ran it by 8 different people in the office, and every one of them could identify that one of these keyboards was clearly inferior to the other. Not only that, but somebody pointed out that the material on the lid and deck was not even necessarily the same. Like one of them was a very soft rubbery finish, and the other one was more of a kind of a hard matte finish. So they weren't even the same, weren't even necessarily made from the same material, right? So now here's a little secret for everybody who out there. Computer manufacturers multi-source their parts. And that means that Lenovo, like every other company, buys critical components like the case, the key, and the keyboard from different manufacturers.
Right. For
the X1 Carbon, Lenovo uses at least 2 manufacturers for the keyboard, according to their own website. They use one from a company called Chicone and one from a company called Sunrex. Now, what I can't tell, because it's not available in the system information, nor is it available when I type in my serial number in the parts lookup on their website, what brand of keyboard was in the review unit and what brand was in the 2 units that I ordered from them, but they're clearly not the same. Maybe they are all the same brand and they're not manufactured consistently. As a user, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's not the same experience.
Right.
So who cares what's going on their end if they can't get it right? So on top of all of that, I know that Costco, there are very few stores where you could actually go buy a ThinkPad in person or buy an X1, particularly this model, the X1 Carbon. But guess what? Costco is one of them. So I went to the local Costco on Friday and I tried the display model. And the display model at Costco had the good keyboard. I was like, wow, this is great. It has a good keyboard. It even felt soft and rubbery. I said, okay, I'm going to buy this at Costco. Now, mind you, buying it at Costco cost more than it cost getting it from Lenovo.com.
Sure.
Although, and I didn't have my choice of screens or specs. There's only one configuration you can get at Costco, and it's a good configuration except for the screen. It's 16 gigs of RAM, 512 SSD, and a Core i7 CPU, which I actually don't need the Core i7 because the difference between Core i5 and Core i7 is not worth the extra $150 you normally pay online for that upgrade.
Sure.
Anyway, so I bought it at Costco, and I said, aha, now I'm going to get it. It costs more, but now I'm going to get the keyboard that I want because I have no idea, because otherwise I'm not really sure what to do. So I took it out of the box. I was very hopeful, and it was definitely better than the keyboard on the most recent one that I ordered, but it still wasn't the same as the review unit that I had. Specifically, a couple, oddly, it was a couple of the keys felt different. Not the whole keyboard, but it seemed to me like a couple of the keys, like the backspace key and the A key and a couple of the other keys were not there. And on top of all of this, the screen, the 1080p screen really sucks. I mean, I thought honestly that maybe this first screen that I got was a fluke because Lenovo claims that it's supposed to be 300 nits and I got 269 nits. But this one is really painfully dim at maximum brightness. So that was Friday afternoon. I haven't gotten to bring it back into my office yet to test it with the color and light meter.
Sure.
But I will do that before I return it. And so right now, I have 2 ThinkPad Carbons that I have to return. And hopefully I won't have trouble returning either one of them because between the 2 of them, I'm on the hook for $3,000 for a laptop that I don't want. So for a laptop that's subpar.
Right.
Now, you tell me, what should I do? First of all, I'm writing an article about this, and everybody should know that like when you buy, and I want to stress this also. I've tried other things. We've reviewed many ThinkPads over the years. We have had some inconsistency in keyboards, but usually when it happens, we reach out to the company and they say, oh, and they give us the impression that, oh, it might just be the one that you got or something like that.
Right.
And so we think, okay, everybody has lemons. Everybody has lemons. And also, what's a lemon to me might not be a lemon to most readers. So if you go online, you read user reviews, you won't find too many user reviews of the X1 Carbon saying it has a poor keyboard because the sticky, mushy keyboard that I had, if you try it versus, say, Dell XPS 13 or another Ultrabook, you might say, hey, this actually is pretty good. So compared to other computers, it's probably still pretty good. I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah.
It's still pretty good. But
compared to itself,
for one who has tried them all, you know that you're not getting the best keyboard that they have to offer. And you might suspect that, hey, Lenovo's smart. They sent me a good keyboard on the review unit, and then they shipped the crappy keyboards to consumers. But like at Costco, the one on display seemed okay. So like it seems to me, and by the way, we have a couple of times gotten computers to review from Lenovo where the keyboard on the review unit wasn't top notch. So I wouldn't necessarily say that like they are acutely aware of like who has a good keyboard and who has a bad one. I think this is purely that there's a quality control issue in the manufacturing, and it may be okay with them. It may be like, look, none of these keyboards is that bad, so just live with getting it different. The material might be slightly different, but hey, we've got to buy it from different sources. That's just your luck. But I feel like when you're spending over $1,000 on a computer and you're buying it for the keyboard, make no mistake, people buy ThinkPads for the keyboard.
Yes.
It's supposed to be the best keyboard. You should get the best keyboard. And so I personally cannot live with having one that I know has an inferior keyboard, and not to mention the issues with the screen. So like, I got to send both of these back. And now my question is, what next? I mean, look, I'm editor-in-chief for Tom's Hardware. If I really want, I'm sure I can find a way of getting somebody to send me one that has a good keyboard. But it's not, but for the readers out there, like, what do you do? I mean, I think most people who buy these may not notice that the keyboard isn't the best keyboard that you can get because they haven't tried a whole bunch of them side by side.
Yeah.
And if you get it and you're satisfied with it, then keep it. And if you're not satisfied with it, then take advantage of the return policy and return it. But but I have to say it's very frustrating. And for me, I'm not sure now what to do. Should I try to get a third? Actually, this would be a fourth one, and see if that one has a better keyboard. If I did, I would try to get it with a full HDR screen because, man, having tried them all now, the other screens are really washed out. However, the 2K regular screen is at least bright. So, I don't know. Should I play that lottery again, or should I get a different computer, or should I just stick with this old computer for a while longer? It's hard to say. By the time given their rate of sending computers every 3 or 4 weeks, by the time I order and get another one, it could be time for the next unit to come out. Who knows?
Right.
Well, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. We probably won't see a new one until at least sometime next year. But this is frustrating, and I feel like not just as a personal gripe, but because I went out there and I wrote an article about why I bought this. I really owe it to our readers to say, like, this is what happened to me, because I recommended it, and at the time that I recommended it, I had placed my order, but I hadn't received it. So, I think people need to know that, like, when you get a ThinkPad, even the bad keyboard is probably good enough for most people, but there's a decent chance that you're not getting the best keyboard that they have to offer. And for some that might be fine, but like for me, that's really disturbing. So, that's what I got to say about it.
Yeah, and it's disturbing for a couple of reasons. First, the price is the same, whether you theoretically get the good keyboard or the not as good keyboard. And it's disturbing because the keyboard may not be the only part that has quality control issues. It's just the one that you're seeing because you physically interact with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, when you call it what I call a quality control issue, you and possibly even Lenovo might say is within tolerance, because look, it's working, right? Mm-hmm. I want to really stress this. None of the notebooks that I bought from them was the dictionary definition of defective.
Right.
They booted up, they worked, all the keys worked, the screen worked, everything worked. So they weren't defective in the sense of broken, non-functional, malfunctional. Although I think that track point that was drifting was really bad. But I mean, like, what's wrong with them is like the quality of the typing experience was not the same,
right,
as I experienced and recommended, and not at the world-class level that people expect when people who have been following the industry expect from a ThinkPad. Mm-hmm. So like, or expect from this ThinkPad, and I'll be real honest with you. Like, I gave that is the first product in many years. I can't even remember the last time that I gave 5 stars, a 5 perfect rating to when I reviewed ThinkPad X1 Carbon. I would not, and I don't just mean me, the company. Laptop Mag maybe gives 1 5-star review every year or two, right? We gave that a 5-star review. If they had sent me a model with the keyboard on any of the 3 that I bought, it would not have gotten that rating. It would, and it might not have even gotten an editor's choice award.
Right.
I don't know. It might not. It certainly wouldn't have gotten the 5-star rating that it got if they sent me that keyboard. So like, on that basis, I recommended it to a lot of readers, and if they're not getting the experience that I had, that's really not fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, you and I kind of talked off air. Lenovo took the #1 spot in the Laptop Mag best and worst brands by a point.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to do the math on this one, but you know, I don't know whether, you know, depending on what we rated it. I mean, it's still, even with a less than perfect keyboard, it's still a really good laptop,
right.
The X1 Carbon. Just learn my lesson and spend the money to get the HDR screen, although your battery life will suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's I have to say, you know, irony of it is we tested it with a 1080p touchscreen, and that was very bright and colorful. So I thought getting a 1080p non-touchscreen would be like the same thing.
Right.
Because, you know, I wouldn't buy a touchscreen on a clamshell laptop. I that's my advice to everybody. Don't waste the electricity or the money on buying a touchscreen unless your laptop bends back. But anyway, that's a neither here nor there. So, yeah, you know, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that would have, I mean, you know, it's an average of a lot of things, so I don't know whether, you know, half a star or whatever difference it might have gotten. You know, I don't want to speculate at this point.
Right.
But yeah, like,
it would have made it a tighter race.
You know, this having an inconsistent experience like this is not the behavior of a #1 brand.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So now to be fair to Lenovo, I am sure that they are not the only ones who source parts from many different vendors. Right. I know that everybody does it. Yeah. Where it stands out is when you use it on a component that people are buying your product for. Yeah. People buy ThinkPads for the keyboard. If I'm buying an Acer E15 that's $350 and I happen to have 4 Acer E15s in front of me and some have a better keyboard than others, I wouldn't have expected to get, you know, like, it's not famous for its keyboard. Right. However, if I was buying let's say a Surface Book, and some of the Surface Books had a really dim screen or a really bland, uncolorful screen, when they're known for their beautiful Pixel Sense displays, yeah, I would feel ripped off. So, like,
or a Surface Book that the hinge was inconsistent on.
Right, something like that your product is famous for. Listen, if you want to use a different brand of USB receptacle on your thing, no one's going to notice or care, right?
Right.
But the flagship parts of your flagship, the parts that people know you for, you need to get right.
For sure.
On every model, on every unit.
Absolutely. Well, obviously we appreciate you sharing your less than stellar experience with us, because it's something that people need to know about, that this is out there. I know you've been doing some writing on this. I assume we're going to see it published probably sometime this week.
Tuesday or Wednesday. We've reached out to Lenovo for comment to see if we can get a comment in the initial article from them. And I'm bringing in the units that I had to have some tests done in the office, so I have a little bit more research. But you know, this can't. I don't want to keep sitting on this. You know, people. I recommended this to people, and they deserve to know what happened.
For sure. So we'll see that Tuesday or Wednesday on Tom's Hardware.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, as always, thank you for bringing that to our attention, Avram. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. all the accessories you need to up your game available from the Razer store. Whether you're looking for a new mouse, like the mouse I use right here, my wonderful Razer mouse, or you're looking for a great keyboard for gaming, or you're looking for a whole system. The Razer Blade systems are fantastic. They've even got the Razer phone, which is not a phone for gaming, but a phone for gamers, which is important. And I know Apple announced this week a new external video card for their MacBooks, but Razer has been doing this for years. And so if you've got a laptop that you want to make better for gaming when you're docked, you can get the Razer Core and add any regular video card to your laptop. All of that and a whole lot more to make your gaming experience better is available by going to f5live.tv/Razer. I saw a lot of people get real excited about the Blackmagic video card this week, and I'm like, calm down, guys. The Razer one works on the Mac, and it has for years. It's not.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
I mean, the thing that really mattered is that Mac built the support into Mac OS. Not that they've come out with a product to do it. So yes, Razer has been doing eGPUs for a while. There are several other eGPUs in the market. And one more thing about Razer, man, if you haven't, you gotta try the Razer Green switches. The Razer Green switches are some of the best keyboard switches anywhere, particularly if you like a clicky keyboard. Which really good switches. Really good keyboard switches.
Which I think all of our regular viewers know that you and I are both big fans of good response on a keyboard. We're both, as we I think established in the last section, you and I are both very picky about keyboards.
It matters a great deal. But look, you're touching it all the time. It ought to matter.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Okay, so let's talk about Nintendo for a minute. Just an interesting topics. Shortly after the Nintendo Switch came out, people wanted, as with all hardware that's locked, to do a special thing. People want it to do things that it's not intended to do. With the Switch, there were 2 exploits that were found over the last 6 months or so. They both have interesting names. One is Deja Vu, and I wouldn't even know how to pronounce the other one because they both end in EE and have an accent in them. So I'm not going to try. It seems to be referred to online by the initials FG, which is fine, so we'll go with that. That one involves the NVIDIA processor in the system and is an actual hardware exploit that a firmware patch at some point made go away. But obviously, if you have not patched the system, you still have the ability to do all of the things that you're not supposed to do. And Deja Vu is some sort of a different, I don't exactly know how that one works. That one was patched later. The big thing that happened this week is that a Twitter user who has been instrumental in discovering these and reporting them to Nintendo. In all fairness, both of these were reported by the discoverers to Nintendo before they were released to the wild, has noticed that the systems that are coming out of Nintendo today have been patched against FG, which is the one that apparently everybody uses. So if you were hoping to do something weird like run Windows 10 on your Switch, which is an honest-to-God actual thing, or you were trying to hack it to be one of those jerks that cheats in the video game and ruins it for everybody else, the consoles coming out of Nintendo today are patched against you. So that is pretty much going to be the end of that for most people.
Man, running Windows 10 on that sounds awesome.
Right? I've seen video. I don't know how legitimate it is. obviously there have been. It's one of the things, right? That there's like 4 or 5 things that hackers do. They try and get Windows 95 to run on hardware, like weird hardware, and then they try and get whatever the most modern version of Windows is. They try and get a build of Linux, and they try and run Doom. Those are like the 4 kind of guaranteed things that people are going to try and do to hardware as soon as it comes out. I think the MacBooks were out with the weird touch bar. I think they were out for a week before somebody had Doom running across the touch bar. It's one of my favorite things. I saw somebody running Doom on an ATM one time.
Well, if you were keeping up with our coverage of Computex, you know that ASUS is coming out with a new ZenBook that has a touchscreen in the touchpad. And while it's not the best use of it, you can use it as a screen. So yes, you could play Doom on that. Actually, really easily because it's using it's Windows, so all it is just a really small monitor.
Right, it's just a second display.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's definitely so for those of us who like to play games, this could be a good thing because we'll see a whole lot less in-game cheating in games like Splatoon, where when somebody cheats and macros stuff, it ruins the game for everybody playing. But for those who just like to experiment, because we know the hardware world loves to experiment with every crazy piece of hardware that comes out and do things that it shouldn't do, but is not malicious. Your big exploit is about to go away, so you will have to be on the lookout for older hardware already in the wild that has not been patched. So good luck with that. That's it. Not a terribly exciting topic, but something that I think should be out there. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let the professionals do it for you, because, that's what they do. The guys who used to do Mystery Science Theater 3000 are back and doing what they do best, making fun of movies. From blockbusters to Omega Cop. I don't know. They've got a little bit of everything. The way it usually works, for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to live, and laugh. From time to time, they do live events in theaters nationwide. The next one is Kroll on August 23rd, which is one I'm looking forward to. In addition to the movies and the live events, they also have short films, a lot of weird old industry films and just bizarre things. All of that, the shorts, the movies, and information about where you can see Kroll live are all available by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. So Avram and I have been talking a lot lately because we have to, about internet censorship. The concept has surprisingly differing opinions, oftentimes from the same people. So obviously a lot of people were in favor of the FCC retaining net neutrality rules, including, let's say, a lot of the Facebook, right? Facebook was in favor of the net neutrality guidelines staying in the FCC. But there are also people that feel that, actually, what's a better example? Google. we'll use Google. Google wanted the FCC to retain the net neutrality rules, and people want Google to censor content themselves. So the internet has become a chaotic and strange place. Really over the last year and a half, I'd say. Does that sound about right, Avram? About a year and a half we've seen this really ramp up where...
I mean, now that, obviously, ever since Ajit Pai was appointed head of the FCC, we knew that net neutrality was going to go.
Sure.
So that's not...
So that's been about
that part's not a surprise.
No, but that's been about a year and a half.
Yeah, and that's been about a year and a half.
And the petitions for Google to censor content on YouTube has been about that same time period, I think. Like the big pushes for them to pull content down. I guess it was probably mid 2016. So that's probably been a little bit longer. But so the internet doesn't quite know what they want. They seem they don't want Comcast to decide what you can see, but they do want Facebook and YouTube to decide what you see.
But I think there's a fundamental difference between those two things. You have a choice as a viewer to go to another website.
Absolutely.
You don't have a choice to go. You don't have much of a choice to go to another internet provider. Most people have at the maximum two home internet providers.
Oh, absolutely.
In their area, and even if there were 5, like there's just and all of them did some degree of censoring of content. That would be, you wouldn't have a lot of choice. Whereas it's the internet, you can go visit. Well, provided that your ISP is not censoring it for you. You can go visit any website.
Sure.
So like YouTube is a platform, Facebook is a platform,
Absolutely.
and they have the right, and some would say the responsibility, to police what happens on their platform. They are not just a dumb pipe.
Sure.
The ISPs don't want to be, but I think most of us would like them to just shut up and give us our connection.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you want your, it's like the telephone, right? You don't want the phone company deciding who can call you,
right?
And whom you can call,
or deciding that certain area codes are off limits. But in this case, I'm totally with you. I don't want anybody deciding what it is that I am allowed to see, but obviously that is not the way everybody believes. And we've seen this interesting buildup around the parts of the internet wanting platforms like Facebook and Reddit to censor or not censor content, and their behaviors in response. Facebook has done a couple of things that have been a little surprising. There was the pair of black conservative women, I can never remember their Facebook page, that Facebook took down, seemingly with no reason. But in general, Facebook has been really kind of hands-off. They may take down content, but taking down pages is pretty unusual for them. Case in point, the backlash against Facebook this week has been over the InfoWars Facebook page, who obviously most people know the front man, Alex Jones, because it's hard to get the YouTube song about the gay frogs out of your head once you've heard it, and kind of everybody knows him. And so Facebook has been asked why they don't just ban InfoWars from Facebook. And Facebook said, we see pages on both the left and the right pumping out what they consider opinion or analysis, but others call fake news. We believe banning these pages would be contrary to the basic principles of free speech. So Facebook, who has been very public about wanting to decide what content is on their platform, there's the whole fake news reporting and all of that stuff. Facebook is saying there's a certain point where just know your sources. On the other, and that has caused them all kinds of trouble this week. On the other hand, Reddit, a user on Reddit asked the CEO, Steve Huffman, who is better known on Reddit as Spez, why do your admins not ban hate speech? And he said, we have our violent speech policy, and that's that. And then he said, whoever asked the question said that this should be a separate thing. And he said, hate speech is difficult to define. There's a reason why it's not really done. Additionally, we are not the thought police. It's not the role of a private company to decide what people can and cannot say. Now, that is a very strong and very defined response. And shortly after, the person who asked the question was suspended.
So, I mean, the thing is, I feel a little bit of empathy for Facebook's position here.
Absolutely.
Because I think what Facebook and other businesses like them want to be is they want to be above the fray. They don't want to get involved in politics. They don't want to take a side, right? So, unfortunately, in our world right now, in our country right now, what one person defines as hate speech, another person defines as mainstream political speech. So who's deciding what's mainstream political speech now?
Right. And I think that's what Spez was saying in his Reddit post was it's hard to define, so we try not to.
Right. So they're in a difficult position, and then whatever they do, they're going to alienate people.
Right.
So
and then how do you implement that consistently?
So, if they say that like InfoWars is bad and fake, all the people who now, you know what, I would kind of like to see Facebook go out and actually do this, but I can understand why they're reticent to do it. Like, they would have to go out and say, look, InfoWars, but InfoWars is a really obvious case because that guy, I'm sorry, he makes up all kinds of crazy stuff.
But the thing that's interesting is, while Alex Jones is the front man for InfoWars, the rest of the staff is not, like, the rest of the programming is not Alex Jones crazy, which is fascinating.
I mean, the thing is, they have to, I guess the question is, what is Facebook sort of allowing into their publisher network, and what are they just allowing to share on their site?
Right.
If they're allowing companies into their they have a publisher network, right?
Instant articles.
Right. If they're allowing somebody into their instant articles, I think they have more responsibility for it.
Absolutely.
Than if they're allowing somebody to just post a page on Facebook.
Because you're not going to stop people from sharing links to it.
Right. That's the thing. So are you going to suddenly cut off the links to it? I mean,
right.
It's bad. Like, people shouldn't, like, they really shouldn't share links to that kind of stuff. I guess the question is how are you going to police it?
Right.
And, I think it's the same.
How do you maintain consistency? Once you decide to police something, how do you maintain consistency? Because, everybody, like I said in my article, everybody knows InfoWars because, again, everybody can't, once you hear the Gay Frogs song, you can't get it out of your head. But, he's just one of thousands of websites with, insanity in both directions, with insanity involved So do you go scan every website and start deciding who's crazy and who's not? You know, how do you create consistency? And I think that's kind of the point that you and I have made a couple of times is, you know, once Facebook gets into content curation of any sort, now they're in that business, and that's not the business they want to be in.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. They don't want to. They want to be above the fray. They don't want to be seen as. So like if they kick off Infowars, right? Like, or something like that. Well, you know, there's a very good argument to be made that they should. At the same time, once they do that, all the people who are saying that are going to say, hey, we're mad, we're leaving Facebook, whatever. You know, and why don't you take down these? I mean, like,
and that just feeds into the conspiracy theory mindset that they're already set for.
Yeah. So like, I think that their position, like many people's, is that like they want to allow the free marketplace of ideas and hope, or maybe they don't care, but others of us can hope that truth wins out in these debates. But unfortunately, it does give a megaphone to craziness. And to be fair, before the internet and really even on the internet and to some degree before Facebook, we didn't have such a big marketplace for crazy ideas. Like, you know, I remember when I was in college, there were some like crazy people handing out like pamphlets on my college campus, and it was like, okay, great, but you're only able to reach all the people who have come by and grabbed a pamphlet from you. Right. But on Facebook, you can reach everybody very, very easily.
Yep, because crazy things go viral pretty quickly. So
you know, maybe they do have a responsibility because they created the platform. At the same time, I'm not sure how much we want them to get into the business of figuring out of epistemology, and figuring out what's true and what's not true.
Right, because at a certain point, you know, that we're at a point now where kind of being without Facebook would almost be a problem, right? So much stuff runs through their network. They're like frighteningly approaching almost utility level. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's a certain point where they might, from a legal standpoint, they might not even be able to. So I think they've set themselves up to try and, like you said, stay as far above it as they can. But then it's interesting to see Reddit kind of go the other way and say we're staying above it, and then suspend the guy that asked the question. The internet is definitely having trouble trying to decide where these platforms fall, and it's definitely an interesting thing to be watching. You know, YouTube, and I've been watching on YouTube, especially recently. I have a plugin that I use for tag suggestions, and the tool now tells you if you include this tag, your video will be demonetized. So it's fascinating the way these companies are dealing with certain stuff, and it was inevitable. We knew that we'd get to this point at some point as a couple of big players emerged, and it's definitely fascinating.
Oh.
This week's DRM not included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. Couple things to remember. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Starts Amazon Prime Day. If you do not already have a Prime subscription or don't know all of the things that you get with Prime, let's talk about that real quick. First, with Prime Day, you get special discounts for a full day and a half. And they start on Monday and they go all the way through Tuesday. There's all kinds of stuff. Remember that just because it's a Prime Day deal doesn't make it a deal. Camel.com is your friend. You get free shipping, 2-day shipping on most things, 1 day on other things, included in your Prime subscription. You also get Amazon Prime Music for free, which is several million tracks for free. And right now, you can sign up for the full Amazon Music for only 99 cents for the first 4 months. You get Prime Video, which is all kinds of content, TV shows, movies, and original content, documentaries, all available as part of your subscription. And you get Twitch Prime. We've been talking about this for a while. First, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch every month, which if you want to, you can use to subscribe to us and help us out a little bit. And you get a free game, a couple of free games per month. Right now, through the 17th, as part of Prime Day, you get a new free game every day. So if you're a Prime subscriber, definitely go over to Twitch and claim as many of the free games as you can. And we've got good news. If you're not currently a Prime subscriber and you still want to take advantage of Prime Day tomorrow, you can by getting a free 30-day trial and seeing all of your benefits by going to f5live.tv/prime. All right. We've talked about the AT&T Time Warner deal a number of times. About a month ago, a federal court dismissed the Department of Justice's case, saying that they had not met their burden of proof, and with that, AT&T finalized their deal with Time Warner. They immediately changed the name of Time Warner to Warner Media because they didn't want it to be confused with Time Warner Cable, which does not exist anymore. So therefore, there shouldn't have been any confusion, but that's okay. Warner Media becomes the new company, and John Stankey, who had been an AT&T executive for a number of years, moved over and took over what is now Warner Media, and recently made comments about HBO needing to make some changes and to take some inspiration from some of the streaming services, in particular Netflix. And that's because the amount of engagement time on HBO versus, say, Netflix is very low, and he wanted to increase that. And one example of the decrease in either quality or quantity or something of HBO is, for the first time in 17 years, HBO is not the top nominated content collection, I guess, for the Emmys. Netflix took that crown from them, so it would definitely make sense that that Warner would be interested in seeing some changes at HBO. Obviously, HBO has always been known for their content, but several of their big shows are either ending or have ended, and so I think he wants to make sure that does not become a long-running problem. But a long-running problem that may get in their way is that the Department of Justice has appealed the judge's ruling from a month ago, and if they were to win, which is most legal analysts believe is unlikely, if they were to win, the merger would have to be rolled back, which would be, I think, fascinating to watch, though probably disastrous for everybody involved. The fact that Warner Media is being run as a separate entity under the umbrella probably makes it a little easier, but the head of the company has already been replaced, so maybe not. But I think in this case, the Department of Justice is trying to show that they're going to remain strong against big mergers, which might be counterindicated by how quickly they approved the Disney-Fox merger, having approved it before they had accepted the bid. But still, I think the government's trying to look strong. against big mergers. That's my feeling. What do you think, Avram?
I think it's just a conflict within, conflict within the government. I mean, obviously, the current administration is generally not doing a lot of sort of blocking of corporate mergers and big into kind of having a heavy hand with regulation enforcement and things like that. So I don't know. I think I don't think that this move by the I don't think this is gonna I don't think this is gonna stand, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think they stand a chance. Most legal analysts have said that there's no way that the government wins this one. But I think the fact that they waited a month before appealing, I think the only reason that they appealed was just like, look, we're taking this seriously. I think it's just a show, personally. Yeah.
Now, honestly, I don't think either one. I'm looking at the total list of Emmy nominees. I don't think HBO was that far behind Netflix.
No, I don't think so either. I think it was just a couple off, but it is the first time that they've not worn the crown in 17 years. So that's a pretty big deal.
I mean, also, isn't one that got nominated a lot was The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I think that is Amazon.
Oh.
Isn't that Amazon? I'm pretty sure that's Amazon.
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
It's about like a stand-up comedian in I think the 50s or something.
Interesting. It sounds
anyway,
like my kind of thing.
Hey, I have not watched it. I will say this: Netflix. I have HBO and I have Netflix. If I had to choose between the two, it would be no contest. Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
HBO has almost nothing that I want to watch, and the only reason why I have it is because it basically came free with my cable package. I would not spend money for HBO at this point. My wife likes Game of Thrones, and I like Westworld, and that's about the sum of it. Whereas Netflix has just so many things going on there, and here's a really key thing that a lot of folks may not be thinking of. The original family child-friendly programming is like, I don't even know if there is any on HBO. I think there's a very, very small amount of like child-friendly programming on that. Netflix is like so many things I can watch with my son on Netflix that are not just like movies that they're licensing, but like originals content.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of and good stuff like that we really enjoy watching together. Like just yesterday, they put up the first season of the Captain Underpants show.
I saw that.
And like we watched almost all the episodes today, and it was while not as good as the books, it was really quite good. So like, and previously, I mean, this may sound odd to say, but the Stretch Armstrong cartoon is really, really good.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
It is not like the original toy at all.
Fair enough.
But nevertheless, a really good show. Sort of reminds me a little bit of Gargoyles.
Okay.
There's just my son really loved the Boss Baby show. They seem to take a lot of movies and make shows out of them.
I see that.
With varying degrees of quality, like those were good ones, but then like the Spy Kids show, not so good. But nevertheless, like they have a lot of good children's shows in addition to really good adult shows like Altered Carbon, which I really, really liked. So like they have really good stuff. I see that Stranger Things, which everybody knows about, has been nominated for a bunch of stuff, but like other really good stuff that they've done, like Altered Carbon, did not, get any recognition here. So like, Netflix makes a lot of stuff. Now I understand that they're going into massive debt with they're operating at a great loss to produce this content for you, but A couple years ago, I was at the point of maybe canceling my Netflix subscription because I was like, man, there's just not even one thing a month that I want to watch on this. And now it seems like every week there's a new original show going up that I actually want to sit and watch the whole show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the quality of Netflix is really, really good.
Yes, for sure. And I think that that's the point of his comments, is that Netflix isn't afraid to try some strange things. They've got that baking show Nailed It, which is a ridiculous concept and is both entertaining and ridiculously funny, which I'm not sure it's supposed to be. And they're not afraid to try some kind of bizarre things. And I think that might be, I think HBO is about to start trying a wider attempt at original content. So it'll be assuming that the DOJ doesn't take Warner away from AT&T, though I don't, like we said, I don't suspect that that'll be the case. But it'll be good. You and I have talked. There's ups and downs on there being a number of services that all offer good content. Obviously, the subscription price starts to get a little ridiculous at a certain point. But if you get a couple of good services that are producing some really great content, it could easily replace a standard cable subscription and just become your go-to. If you've got Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and HBO all actually producing quality, you might actually make a change. So well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us in the chat room. I see some people talking, at least one something going on YouTube. You mentioned Sky. That is a fascinating topic, because that kind of fits into that Disney Fox conversation, because everybody involved in the Fox bidding is also involved in the Sky bidding, because that is going to be owned by somebody else before the end of 2018. Anyway, so thank you to those of you who joined us live. If you didn't join us live, or you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you can find all of our shows and subscribe to them on your mobile devices on basically every platform you could ever want. So definitely go check that out. If I'm not mistaken, we've got nothing in our way for the next couple of weeks, so theoretically we should have a normal schedule for a little while. Hopefully Avram will nod his head at me. Excellent.
Yes.
So
nothing fun.
Excellent. That means we will see you guys back next week. So on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next week. Ciao.